you've already heard from some really interesting speakers tonight about the importance of language, and also about how we can really bring the Kosovan Albanian community into the heart of this fantastic city, and make that community as much a part of our city as all the many other fantastic groups of people that over the years have come to London and to the UK. So, as has already been said, I'm the Member of Parliament for Lewisham East. I was elected in the 2010 general election, so I'm still a relatively new Member of Parliament, and despite my grey hair, I'm still a relatively young Member of Parliament. So I'm pleased to be coming and speaking to you tonight, because I think that actually this week we haven't done particularly well in London as a city with some of the headlines that have been in the newspapers and on the television. And if you just think over the last couple of days of some of the things that we've been reading about, whether it's the behaviour of some landlords in the city when they discriminate on the basis of the colour of a person's skin or their nationality, that doesn't make me proud to be a Londoner. That makes me feel very bad about the city that we live in, because those things should not be happening. And when we read in the papers about some of the very divisive rhetoric that, and I will make a small political point, that is coming from this government at the moment, it upsets me to think that we have this fantastic city here in London, and that we can't find a way of recognising and celebrating each other's differences and understanding what it means to have different people's skills, different people's perspectives, because surely that makes our city a richer place and a better place. And so I think that what you're doing here tonight, coming together this week, is something that's very important, and so I am pleased to be joining you. When I was thinking about what I might say this evening, I thought that actually we talk about diversity a lot, don't we? We talk about being a multicultural city, but often what we don't do is say exactly why we think that's a good thing. And I've already touched on some of the reasons why I think that it's good, whether that's socially, about having a mix of different cultures, whether it's economically, about having those links and those ties to other parts of the world. But I also think, on a very basic level, it just makes our city so much more interesting to live in. And I think about my own weekend. What did I do this weekend? I walked down into Lewisham Market, where I can buy fruit and veg from a fruit and veg seller who's been doing that for the last 50 years. I go into Lewisham Market, I can buy African prints from a fantastic young female entrepreneur who's selling the most beautiful African fabrics. I can go out and I can eat Jamaican jerk chicken. I try not to eat too much of it, but you know, it's fabulous. And I think that's what makes our city very special. But it's just about so much more. It is about so much more than that. It is about making the most of people's different skills, people's different life experiences, and those global connections. And I also think that when people have come from different parts of the world, they have an interest and an openness to different experiences, other experiences. And I think about this when I had a small group of children from a local primary school come to see me in the House of Commons. And they wanted to come and see me because it was a special day, and it was called Send My Friend to School Day. And they had done a lot of work all about the importance of education across the world. And they had realised that children in many countries aren't as lucky as they are here in the UK. And they were part of a campaign nationally to say they wanted other children elsewhere in the world to have that opportunity to learn, an opportunity to develop and to succeed. And so when Rushy Green Primary School came to see me, and they really are, they're like a microcosm of the world in one school. They probably speak 20 or 30 different languages just in that one school. And they're fantastic. They're kids that want to learn. And I see the future of London in those children. But I also know that for those children and those families, sometimes there are challenges as well about if English isn't their first language. It can be difficult in school to get on and do well. It can be difficult for parents to have the conversations with teachers or doctors. And I've done a lot of work on campaigning for access to English language tuition, English for speakers of other languages. And I don't think you can underestimate the importance of being able to speak the language of the place where you live. That's the first thing to say. And I hosted an event in the House of Commons when I had recent refugee and migrant communities talking about how important they felt that it was to be able to speak the language. And I can remember one woman saying that she felt, before she could speak English properly, that she felt as if she was just like living her life in a box, that she couldn't really break out and she couldn't really express herself. And it was such a beautiful thing to listen to her describing the value of her being able to learn English. Now, of course, what we're here tonight to talk about is the importance of maintaining and giving recognition to Albanian as a community language. Now, I'm married to someone who's bilingual. He has an Austrian mother but was born in London. And when he was born, the advice to him and his mother, more importantly, was we don't advise you to bring your son up speaking 2 languages because we think that he might get a bit confused. Now this was based on, I think, a trip to the doctors when he was being a little bit uncooperative and wouldn't put the right blocks in the right shapes, and the doctor said to his mum, I think you should just speak English to him. But she said, no, I'm going to speak English to him. I'm going to speak Austrian to him as my son. His dad, who is English, will speak English to him. And he speaks perfect, fluent, 2 languages now. So he speaks German and he speaks English. And I think, he is a bright lad as well. And I think that in learning those 2 languages, it really helped him to develop in terms of his ability to learn. It's important for your memory. It's important in terms of developing those skills whereby you learn. And I think that just as perhaps the children of Austrians or French or German or Spanish people living in London have the opportunity to do a GCSE, that opportunity should also be there for the children of people who have come from Kosovo or from Albania. And so I think there's a whole range of different reasons why it's important that you're doing what you're doing. Obviously, there's the impact it can have on children learning, but also it must be good in terms of career prospects. This is a city where people want people to speak other languages. It's a really, really good thing to have on your CV. And I think that, especially given that Albanian is a language that's important because there has been awful conflict in that part of the world, and I think it is important for people to be able to speak their mother tongue, and it's part of the process perhaps of building those links and building the process of reconciliation and building peace in that region. And so for those reasons I think too it's important. But lastly, what I'd say is this: if there's a GCSE in Albanian, it's a way of the authorities here showing respect for your community and recognising your community language. And I think that, just as I think it was Daniel was saying earlier, that this is a two-way process. I think it's fantastic if we can show respect for your language. I know that there's a lot of work to do. You need to get lots of people signed up to taking the exam, and I know that you've also got to raise quite a bit of money, I think, as well. But I wish you every success, because your community deserves to be as part of this fantastic city as any other community. And so I applaud all the work that you're doing, and I wish you every success. And I'd like to thank you very much for inviting me here, and thank you all for being here. Thank you.